Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. I am Richard Taylor, coming back with more information on the ongoing Wayne County Sheriff Office investigation by the FBI or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, the last video I did was focusing on the selectiveness of the indictment. And what I mean by that is I broke down the other different players, the other different individuals who were not prosecuted in the indictment, but had a hand or cooperation in the actions of Michael Cox. I mentioned the lawyer Worth Haycock. I mentioned the detective who was running plates, and I mentioned the district attorney who agreed to drop charges, the subordinate one who was moving drugs from one location to the other for Cox, and another employee who ran plates, and the head of the patrol unit that was at Cox's house facilitating some things. So I mentioned a lot of people in that indictment, not by name, but by the information given in the indictment that was released, I think, in on August 30th, right? But as I began to think about this entire situation and, the numerous acts of the individuals, the corrupt deputies involved, I began to think about the head honcho in charge, which is Sheriff Pearce. Now, this is the individual who is supposed to be making sure that sheriff deputies uphold the moral integrity and ethical practices that they have sworn to upkeep. However, as we see from the indictment and numerous information that is not listed in the indictment that I will share with you later, we see that he did not uphold his duty to make sure that things were running in a legal and ethical manner. So you got to look at this two ways, right? You say Sheriff Pearce is the top dog, the head honcho, the H. Or I can't call him the HNIC, but you get the point, right? So you can look at it two ways. When all this is going on, he was either too incompetent to notice, too unaware, or not paying attention to what was going on in his office. So that would make him indeed inept to be in that position. Or you can look at it another way, that he knew what was going on and failed to stop it. But regardless of either way that you look at it, it is clear and present that this sheriff department has a lot of loopholes in it and is out of control. Therefore, the investigation, which started in 2021, has come upon us, right? So my question is, why isn't the public calling for his head or his resignation? Because all of this happened under his watch. There is no excuse for these things to be occurring and him not know it, being in his position. And so, being that, he has been kind of quiet, releasing general statements here and there, I decided to call the sheriff office yesterday and asked to speak to Sheriff Pearce. Now, of course, I didn't think that he would actually speak to me. So when I first called, the secretary or the operator answered the phone, and I asked, let me, can I speak to Sheriff Pearce? And she said, what it's about? Well, I'm just a concerned citizen who has been paying attention to what is going on with the investigation. I just want to know, what the sheriff thinks about it, what is going on, what is his plans to do with it, right? So she patched me through. So the phone ring, and I'm actually getting kind of nervous, right? So I'm like, man, what I'm gonna say to this dude? I know what I want to say to him, but I know, he's under no obligation to answer my questions. Nevertheless, nobody answered the phone, and no matter of fact, no, nobody answered the phone. So I left a message, and I said pretty much the same thing that I told you guys. I'm a concerned citizen, uh, worried about the investigation. I want to know what the sheriff department is doing about the situation. So I left the message. I didn't expect nobody to call me back. So about 3 or 4 hours later, I receive a call from this Wayne government number. So I'm like, okay. So I answer the phone, and it's Miss Julie Herring, I think, right? That was her name, Miss Julie Herring. So I told her once again what I wanted. I told her that I'm just a concerned citizen. A lot of citizens are concerned about this investigation, and we want to know what is going to be done, what is being done. And I said I wanted to speak with Sheriff Pearce. So she said, well, Sheriff Pearce is in a meeting right now, so we can take your number and have him give you a call back. So I said, okay. So of course, once again, I don't think he's going to call back. Yesterday goes by, then it's today. So today goes by, probably about 2 or 3 o'clock. I get a call from that same number. So once again, my heart start beating because I know what I want to say to him, but I don't know how that's going to be received. So the phone rings, and it's a Mr. Joel Gilly. And he said, yeah, this is Joel Gilly. I'm calling from the sheriff office. And is this Mr. Taylor? I was like, yeah. And he said, okay, well, yeah, we received the call, and how can we help you? And I told him, I said, okay, well, concerning the investigation and everything that's going on, I'm just a concerned citizen, and we want to know what's the status of the investigation and things like that, and what is Pearce going to do about it. So, and I give him credit. He was doing his job because he is actually the public affairs for Wayne County, which I found out. I'm like, who are you? How long you been with the sheriff department? He said, no, I'm not with the sheriff department. I'm from the county, and I'm the public affairs person. So what he basically does, he's damage control. Like, he's a PR person for someone who's a celebrity, if you want to put it in that context. So we began to talk, and I began to ask questions, about the investigation. He was like, well, we really don't have any information, about, anything that the investigation is entailing. He said that we've released, a statement, and he said that WRAL asked us some questions yesterday, and but other than that, we have no knowledge of the investigation because, and I begin to understand it because the FBI is investigating them. So of course they don't know what the FBI is looking for or looking into. So they have no information to give me regarding that, right? So, once again, we began to talk, and I said, well, he hasn't said nothing. Like, what did he say? He said, oh yeah, we've released a statement, and he was kind enough to send me the statement, which I'll read to you in a minute. But he also said, the WRAL asked us some questions, um, and I also sent, our responses to you. And somebody actually sent me that article this morning, but I never read it because I said I would get to it later. But he did talk about some of the things that had happened. He mentioned the financial schemes that the deputies were involved in. And he mentioned he said, yeah, as soon as we found out about it in 2021, we began to put measures in place and things like that. And he said the city manager then started doing something. So I had to ask him, what you mean then? Is that person there? No, not there anymore. And he said, no, that person resigned or whatever. and he said his name was Craig Honeycutt. And so, of course, I just Googled Craig Honeycutt, and it says that he resigned, and I think it says May of 2022, which is a little over a year and some change ago. So that lets me know during the investigation, which started in 2021, either he got out before, the hot water rose to his trousers, or he was forced out because he may have been in some way complicit. And so rather than get indicted, they said, okay, well, we're going to let you out of here. And once again, my theory with this is I don't believe that these things go on in that manner for such a long time with such effectiveness without people being cooperative or in collusion with those acts. So he told me that guy resigned or whatever, and we talked a little bit further, and he said he asked me for my email, so he sent these documents, right? So first, I'm going to read the generic press release. Now, this press release was released, I think, August the 30th, and that was a day or two after Cox was arrested, and the U.S. Justice Department announced the investigation. But I don't know why they're just announcing it if it had been going on since 2021. But the joint statement from Wayne County Sheriff Larry Pearce regarding United States Department of Justice announcement. Now, joint statement means it's not from Larry Pearce. It's joint. That means somebody wrote this for him. Now, we can all read this, and say because, a person, he may talk like this, but we all know these statements and press releases are manufactured by damage control or people who are versed in wording to kind of make everything look good. So this is what the statement read if you haven't read this press release. It says, earlier today, the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of North Carolina issued a press release indicating that a current and former Wayne County deputy had been charged with numerous federal charges. Sheriff Larry Pearce was not made aware of the specific charges until the U.S. Attorney's press release. Once again, he's unaware. He's in the dark, which he has been all the while, evidently. But Wayne County and Sheriff's Office were notified in the fall of 2021 of an ongoing federal investigation. The county Sheriff's Office and employees fully cooperated with the investigation and provided all information that was requested from the authorities. Now, after learning of the investigation, the Wayne County Finance Department and Sheriff's Office implemented immediate corrective action. So what is that corrective action? Because if it was happening in 2021 and Worth is just getting, fired or placed on leave now, what is the immediate corrective action? Was that the firing of, Honeycutt? There was no immediate corrective action if these things went on and Cox just got arrested 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and Worth is just being placed on leave. There was no immediate correction action, but that sounds good, right? Major Chris Worth has been placed on administrative leave without pay, pending the outcome of the charges. Wayne County and Wayne County Sheriff's Office will continue to cooperate with any request from U.S. Attorney's Office and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, that is his statement, right? So, once again, there is a generic, okay, hey, yeah, we found out about it, we made some action, and we placed them on leave. But one thing that I've not heard anything about is the Detective Charles Schaefer case, where they searched and raided his home. Quote unquote, they didn't find anything, but where is he at? Why did they raid his home? So and Schaefer has been listed in some other allegations that people have sent me throughout this 2 week period, ever since that I initially announced or broke down that federal indictment about Cox about 2 weeks ago. But I'm going to read you the answers to these questions as well that Mr. Gilly provided to me. He said it was a pleasure speaking with you. I attached the joint press release. Also, we received some questions from WRAL, and he provided responses. So the question one says, authorities say while running the Wayne County Sheriff's Office drug unit, Cox and Worth didn't follow any approved practices for recording or storing seized evidence and were then able to appropriate cash and weapons without oversight. Oversight. That's what Pearce and other people were supposed to be doing. Overseeing or watching over these people. But evidently, of course, we know that they wasn't doing it, allegedly. So has Wayne County Sheriff Office since put into place a system for the drug unit to record evidence appropriately? If not, is there a plan to do so? Now here is Pearce responses in red, so I don't know if Pearce actually answered this or was it, and you can tell me if you've seen the news story if it was his words or not, because I haven't. But he says for a number of years prior to the current Sheriff's Office administration, there was an environment of non-compliance with policies within the drug unit. So notice how he says prior to the current administration, but these things were going on as recently as 2019, according to the justice indictment. So if I'm not mistaken, Pearce was sheriff during that tenure. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Nevertheless, he goes on to say, Sheriff Pearce worked to rectify these issues as he and his leadership team became aware of them. These efforts continued once the office became aware of the most recent allegations. So these efforts continued when they became aware of the recent allegations. Evidently, those measures or those rectifications, probably not a word, but weren't effective, or they were futile in thwarting the misconduct of the deputies. But nevertheless, it says they included stricter documentation requirements relating to evidence storage, undercover operations, and seized weapon. In addition, the entire drug unit has been reorganized with new leadership and accountability. Once again, that sounds good. But if people were already in the organization, as we see from the indictment, cooperating and corroborating with the deputies, that the only 2 deputies now, out of all of these deputies, were arrested, where are all the other people who were complicit in these actions, right? I'm sure we don't believe it's just 2 bad apples, right? Because I have some documentation here that's going to oppose that theory. The second question, has the Wayne County Sheriff Office changed any operations and procedures as a result of the accusations of bid rigging against Cox and Worth? His answer, the county and the Sheriff's Office immediately terminated all contracts with Eastern Emergency Equipment once federal authorities made them aware of the alleged conduct in September 21. Of course you're supposed to. So why did it take so long for them to execute this indictment if everybody knew in 2021, September? That's almost 2 years ago, mind you. The county didn't learn about all the details surrounding the bid rigging until later in the investigation. The finance department and the sheriff removed any implicated employees from procurement and financial related decision making as they became aware of the allegation. Now, mind you, we just mentioned Honeycutt was removed. Of course, it wasn't in 2021. But was he one of those employees that were implicated? His answer continues to read, as with any other policies, the sheriff will work with the county to review procurement and conflict of interest policies and update them as necessary. Of course, once again, that's a generic answer. We're going to continue to pretty much what he's saying, do what we've been doing, like, unless you catch us. In my opinion, maybe you're wrong. The third question, they said, while Cox is retired, Worth, once again, is referred to as a current deputy by federal authorities. Is he still with the sheriff's office, or has he been placed on leave or terminated due to the proceedings against him? Major Chris Worth has been placed on administrative leave without pay pending the outcome of the charges. Who does that? Think about it. Most times, I know most of my charges, I was guilty until proven innocent. But here we have this guy who's the head of this drug unit, and was doing. It's unfathomable that he was not in collusion or coercion with Deputy Cox and all of his misdeeds. But nevertheless, he's still listed as an employee, just not getting paid. But we might just bring you back in if somehow you can finagle your way, out of these accusations. Then the fourth and final question is: In August, Wayne County Deputy Charles Schaefer. Now and I didn't read these beforehand, so I'm just reading these as I'm relating them to you. It says Wayne Deputy Charles Schaefer's home was searched by the FBI, and the county confirmed to WRL that he had been placed on leave. But Schaefer isn't named in the federal investigation. Let's stop right there. If his house, and once again, I have people who can testify to Schaefer's. I'm going to read this text to you that can testify to Schaefer's, once again, misconduct. He isn't named in the indictment though, but his home was searched and he's been placed on leave. Make it make sense, right? If I'm gonna continue on. Has the county been told why Schaefer's home was searched, and if it's in connection with the case against Cox and Worth? Does he remain on leave? Of course, it's in connection with that investigation. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, but once again, this gentleman who gave me some information, firsthand information about his experiences, we're going to explore that. It says in August, his answer: at this time, we do not have any information on the search of Charles Schaefer's home. That will be a question for the FBI or the Department of Justice. Schaefer was placed on administrative leave after the search and has taken medical leave. Now he's sick. Lord, take me home. That I feel him though. You know what I'm saying? Just like the old mafia cats. What's that? Who that? Giancana, one of them. When he was under federal indictment, he used to walk around and act crazy. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Or it may be a serious medical issue, and if it is, my heart goes out to him. Hope he's well. But the answer to these questions, once again, I broke all of those down. Just they're skeptical at best. They're suspect at best. The fact that these people still remain on payroll, still remain employed. The fact that we didn't find out about this until then, but we made the corrective measures. But yet still, these people were still employed, still allowed to operate in those capacities within that time limit. So there is, once again, no reason to believe that Cox and Worth were the only ones participating in these types of activities. And the reason I say that, the first time, before this case came out, I was covering the death, or simultaneously, I was covering the death of one Josh Keating. His mother reached out to me and told me about his death and some suspicious circumstances, and she told me about deputies who are involved in that crowd of people. who, in her opinion, are suspected in her son's death, which was ruled at a hanging. Now you can go back and watch the videos about Josh Keating and that particular situation. But here's one text. Now I've been receiving tens of calls, texts, Facebook messages. I read a couple of them from people who are corroborating not only the indictments on Cox and Worth, but also several deputies. And I'm going to read this. This guy said, Mr. Taylor, first allow me to say thank you so much for getting the story of Josh Keating out for the public to hear and hopefully put more pressure on Wayne County Sheriff Office. I'm not going to give my name, as I too used to be in the streets and an addict for many years. I have been clean now for 12 years. Now, he goes on to talk about Josh and his family. I'm not going to read that because this is not about that right now, but it all ties in. But he said, in the next paragraph, he says, during my years of addiction, I also had dealings with Cox, Worth, Schaefer, all of these gentlemen who has either been arrested or investigated by the FBI. Now, this is, once again, a former addict. I don't care, once again, I was in that life, so I know what goes on in that life. So for people to kind of discount people who are in that life as, unbelievable is not meritable. You shouldn't discount a person because of their sickness when their information could be valid. But I'm going to continue. And he says, and several more Wayne County deputies. It's about time that the investigations of certain deputies are finally going somewhere. I don't understand why Schaefer has yet to be charged, as he has been crooked from day one. He took payments to look over certain dealers' activities. He has taken meth labs, yet never arrested the cook. He said it was his lucky day. He would make charges disappear for sexual favors, have bonds lowered for sexual favors. It's said from another deputy that Schaefer has also helped cover up a murder. Get rid of the body. Is this what it means to protect and serve? I don't think so. Yet no charges as of yet on Schaefer. There are so many that have retired or left the department that were just as dirty as the previously mentioned deputies. Hope the FBI will continue investigating officers from Wayne County. Then he goes up and talks once again. He goes into detail once again about the death of Josh Keating. And I may read this when I focus on Josh's death again, because me and his mother once again are still trying to get some exposure to that death. But this is the end of the text. He said the citizens of Wayne County deserve to know what kind of people they have around them and what kind of officers they have to depend on to protect and to bring justice to the criminals as they swore to do. Rick Farfor, which another person mentions in another text, I may get to that one if time allows. Tom Effler, Chuck Schaefer, Mike Cox, Chris Worth are just a few that are known to be corrupt. Take them all down. He says there are several deaths that have been handled improperly. The corruption doesn't stop with the deputies. Judges, DAs, lawyers are all corrupt. Once I mentioned, like I mentioned in the previous video, Wayne County is the worst county in North Carolina to live in. I pray that God leads the FBI to uncover every one of the wrongs by our law enforcement. I could go on and on, but work is calling. Thanks and God bless you, brother. Now, once again, this is an anonymous text. And he goes on, here's another text. He said, Mr. Taylor, I'm very curious about the search of Schaefer's house and him being put on leave from the department. There was one news story about it, and then we hear nothing else. I know that Chuck is one of the most corrupt deputies there is in Wayne County and would like to see more about his leave and whether or not charges will be filed. Do you happen to know anything about it? And I do not do not know because of course they're keeping everything under wraps. But that is just one of the many texts that I received. Let me go and see if I can find uh, the other one that mentioned Schaefer, as well as Farfor. Farfor. And once again, we have several different people who I don't know, but they are mentioning the same deputies in these in their recounting of their events and interactions with these law enforcement. I know I should have had this up. Let me see. September the 4th. There's so many calls. Once again, I could not, remember all of the information. Okay, I know what it was. It was September the 6th, I think. September the 6th, 6666. But I think you guys get the picture. No, that was this. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay, here's my guy right here. He said, "Hey man, I don't know you, but given the case files, but I do think that major worth is taking the fall for someone or multiple people that are higher up." Once again, that's evident. There is no way that these two gentlemen can accomplish all of this dirt without there being someone else holding the shovel and helping them, pile it on. He said, "I have heard it from a person that will not reveal their source, but the Wayne County Sheriff's Office is a good old boys club. I know Worth personally, and I have a hard time believing he acted alone with Cox." And I do too. Yes, fortunate for Wayne County, they think they are untouchable. But they're, and I'm not going to read any more because I think we have, pretty much my point in the video is, there's no way that these two gentlemen are the only corrupt cops. And once again, what happened to Schaefer, the main thing with this is we as citizens, we as taxpaying citizens, the sheriff works for us. We pay his salary. So when something like this is going on in our community, we should be at the county commissioners meeting calling for resignation. We should have a petition going on right now to get this gentleman out of office and then place someone. And once again, it's going to be hard to find someone within the department because it's hard to believe that no one else is tainted, by this. Like my man Gilly told me. He said, "Well, yeah, the manager, the city manager, or the finance, whoever was fired because of the investigation, the one who took his place was the vice or the assistant county manager. So what do you? Of course, if the county manager is inept or corrupt, and you bring his underling up, then you're not changing anything. It's almost like, when we change presidents. If we're not changing the system, we can't expect any changes. So it's up to us, the citizen, the laymen, the people with all of these stories. Like I said, at least within the last 2 weeks, I know 30 people have called me and told me about these corrupt sheriffs and what they've done. And I don't, I should have taken the time to go through my phone and my Facebook messages, all of the texts and everything, the emails even, the comments that were left under the past videos. Go back and check out the past videos on Josh and the sheriff department and those other videos and see how many people corroborate that Cox and what's his name, Worth, are not the only ones. And once again, I don't focus on the bid rigging scheme because that doesn't have anything to do with me or the people who I care about, which are the addicts and the dealers, right? Because these people that are implicated in the indictment and the things like that, those are just a few of the people who have been affected by these people. Where are the others? And there are plenty others, and I've heard stories of plenty others, being harassed, set up, just all types of things by these corrupt cops, and not to mention the one who has already served time and got out, and now these things are coming out, and no one probably believed them that yeah, man, this guy planted that on me, or no, that was he gave me that dope to sell, whatever the case may be. So that's where it comes to us, just like the same thing with the principal, Mrs. Waters. Everybody was up in arm about her comment. Now everybody's quiet, and I did call the school board yesterday as well, because I'm not just gonna do this. Like, it's cool to comment on the post and like the post and share the videos and watch them, but if we're not doing anything, then we're just um, running in circles. We're on a hamster wheel until something else happens. So I called the school board, and they said, well, last week they said, well, they haven't met yet. But then this week they said, well, the superintendent can't tell you nothing because he doesn't know nothing yet. We haven't done anything yet. So once again, it's almost a situation of let it die down. And we are reactionary people, and I say we as in the community because there were so many different nationalities, different walks of life that were outraged at Mrs. Waters' comments, that it wasn't almost a race thing. It was just a simple morality, love for the children thing. But yet still nobody's going to that council meeting. I would have went, but I got the after school program on Monday, so I couldn't go. But I wanted to go and voice my opinion and displeasure of what's going on. But we need someone or people not just to be outraged for the moment and then click on the next story or click to the next video or scroll to the next post. We need really people to say, okay, if this is unacceptable for us, our county, our schools, our protection, our safety, our law enforcement, then we need to be more proactive than just doing that. So I spoke with the Miss Sylvia Smith, I think, and she was like, yeah, I can't tell you, Mr. Taylor, there's no one you can meet one with because no one knows anything. Of course, she's a gatekeeper, so I'm not going to press her, but that's one of the things that I've seen, that it's going to take more than just momentary outrage to fix these problems. And the first problem, once again, I think that Pearce must go. Because once again, as I stated at the beginning, if he didn't know, then he's too inept to be a sheriff. And if he's not inept, that means he knew. No way around it. No two ways around it. Like I said, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it got well feet, best believe if you put it in the water, it's probably going to swim. And that's what I think with Sheriff Pearson. Just like my guy said, I don't know his name. He said, it's hard to believe that they acted alone. I think they're taking the phone for a high rush, and that's normally how it goes. So, we're gonna once again stay on this. Hopefully, people will step forward with their stories and interactions. Since once again, that's what the FBI need. If you don't want to come to the precinct, because of course they only investigate themselves. Now it's out of their hands. We've been waiting for someone to look from the outside in. Now we have it. So all of you people with your stories and your documentation and how they did it, you need to be calling that investigation and say, hey, I got some more stuff on this guy. He did this. He did this. If we're going to be, if we're going to be giving information to get people in trouble, then we need to give information in this instance as well. So we're gonna stay up to date on this, but my main goal is once again to not let this situation blow over, and then the FBI leaves, and there's still people in that position that have been doing things that are worthy of being eradicated or being replaced from those positions. So peace and love. I thank y'all for tuning in. And just go back and look at some of the comments of the other videos, and you will see people voicing their experiences with certain sheriff deputies. But I pray that y'all have a blessed night. Peace and love. I'm out till next time.